When I turned 30, I had a number in my head: $1 million. I thought that number would change everything: how I felt, how I slept, who I was. I was wrong, and not a little wrong, completely, embarrassingly wrong. Because here's what nobody told me back then, and what took me 20 years and a lot of expensive mistakes to figure out. Becoming a millionaire is almost nothing like you think it's going to be. The day it happens? Underwhelming. The path to get there, so boring it would put you to sleep. And the feeling of, finally, I'm safe? For most people, it never actually arrives. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 brutal truths about building wealth. The ones that don't make it into the highlight reels, the ones backed by actual research on real millionaires, and the ones I genuinely wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me at 30. And I'll warn you now, truth number 6 is the one that stings. It has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the people around you. Stick around for that one. Let's get into it. Here's the problem with most money content out there. It's obsessed with the destination. Hit the number. Cross the finish line. 7 figures, confetti, done. But almost nobody talks about what the journey actually feels like from the inside, or what happens to your head when you get there. And that gap between expectation and reality, that's where people burn out. That's where they make desperate decisions in their 40s and 50s trying to catch up. That's where they sacrifice a decade of their life chasing a feeling that a number was never going to deliver. I've seen it over and over. Smart people, hard-working people, people who did everything right on paper, and still ended up anxious, disappointed, or worse, broke at 60 because they chased shortcuts. So this video is the conversation I wish someone had with me. Not motivation, not hype, just the truth, with real data behind it. Real quick before truth number 1, if you're someone who wants the honest version of money, retirement, and building wealth, without the hype and without the get-rich-quick nonsense, do me a favor and hit subscribe. Over 90% of the people watching right now aren't subscribed, and this channel exists to give you the conversations nobody else is having. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps. All right, truth number 1. Picture the day you become a millionaire. What does it look like in your head? Champagne? Some deep sense of peace washing over you? Here's what it actually looks like. You open your account on a random Tuesday. The number has crossed 7 figures. You stare at it for maybe 10 seconds. You feel something. A small, quiet, huh. And then the dryer buzzes. The dog needs to go out. You have a meeting at 9. Life just continues. There is no moment where the universe taps you on the shoulder and says, "Congratulations, you're safe forever." And this isn't just my experience. The psychology research on this is fascinating. Surveys on wealth perception consistently show that when Americans are asked how much money they'd need to feel wealthy, the answer lands somewhere north of $2 million. But here's the kicker. That number moves. Ask people who already have 2 million, and suddenly the safe number is 5. Ask people with 5, it becomes 10. It's called the moving goalpost, and your brain runs this program automatically. Federal Reserve data on consumer finances shows the same pattern. Plenty of high-net-worth households still describe themselves as financially insecure. Let that sink in. People with more money than 95% of the country still feel like it's not enough. So here's the brutal truth. If your plan is, "I'll feel secure when I hit the number," you may be waiting the rest of your life. Security is not a number. It's a decision. It's the moment you look around at what you already have and decide, deliberately, to want it. That doesn't mean don't build wealth. Build it. But build it knowing the finish line is a mirage, so you can enjoy the road instead of sprinting towards something that keeps backing away from you. Now, this one flies directly in the face of everything social media has ever shown you. Open your phone, and the algorithm will tell you millionaires are made by crypto plays, day trading, dropshipping empires, and some course a 22-year-old is selling from a rented Lamborghini. The actual research tells a completely different story, and it's been telling the same story for decades. Studies of real American millionaires, going back to the classic research on everyday wealthy households, keep finding the same profile. These are people who automated contributions into retirement accounts every single month, for decades, who lived meaningfully below their means, who bought broad index funds and, this is the hard part, didn't touch them when the market crashed, who paid off their homes, and who avoided the big, catastrophic mistakes. That's it. That's the entire playbook. No secret, no hack, and the numbers are almost comical. Roughly 9 out of 10 millionaires are first generation. They didn't inherit it. Around 8 out of 10 used a boring workplace retirement plan as their main vehicle. And in surveys of thousands of millionaires, you know how many said picking hot individual stocks was the key to their wealth? Essentially none. Read that again. The people actually holding the wealth did the opposite of what the internet screams at you every day. Here's why this truth is brutal. Boring doesn't sell. Boring doesn't get views. Nobody brags at a barbecue about their automatic 401k contribution. So the strategy that actually works stays invisible, while the strategies that fail get all the airtime. The discipline isn't picking winners. The discipline is staying awake at the wheel of a very, very slow car for 30 years, while everyone around you swears they found a rocket ship. Truth number 3 is the most motivating math you will ever hear, but only if you survive the first stretch. The first $100,000 is, by far, the hardest money you will ever accumulate. And here's why. In the beginning, it's all you. Every dollar in that account came out of your paycheck, your sacrifice, your skipped vacation. Compounding is technically working, but at small balances, it's a rounding error. You save $10,000 in a year and the market adds a few $100. It feels like pushing a boulder uphill in the rain. This is the stage where most people quit. They look at the math after 2 or 3 years and think, at this rate, I'll never get there. And they're right about the rate, but wrong about the math. Because compounding isn't linear. It's a hockey stick. Watch what happens. At $100,000, a 7% average return hands you $7,000 a year, without you lifting a finger. That's a nice vacation, earned in your sleep. At $500,000, $35,000 a year. That's a decent salary in many states, again, while you sleep. At $1 million, $70,000 a year. Your portfolio is now out-earning the version of you that started this journey. Same 7%, same strategy, wildly different outcome because the base grew. The boulder you spent years pushing uphill? At some point it crests the hill and starts rolling downhill on its own, faster and faster, and your job shifts from pushing to simply not getting in the way. So if you're in the grind stage right now and it feels pointless, it's not. You're not building a balance. You're building the engine. The engine takes years. The speed comes after. This one is going to make some people uncomfortable. Good. It needs to. A big salary is not wealth. A big salary is potential. And most people take that potential and set it on fire every single month. Let me show you 2 people. First, meet the surgeon. $250,000 a year. Beautiful house with a beautiful mortgage. 2 leased luxury cars. Private school, country club, the trips you see on Instagram. At the end of every month, what's left over? Basically nothing. He's been earning $250,000 a year for 15 years, and his net worth is a rounding error. If the paychecks stop, his entire life collapses in 90 days. Now, meet the teacher. $90,000 a year, household income. Modest home they're actually paying off. Cars they own outright. And every month, automatically before they can touch it, 15% goes into retirement accounts. They've done this without drama for 25 years. They're millionaires. Quiet ones. The kind that don't look like it in the school parking lot. The difference between these 2 people is not income. It's not intelligence. It's one single variable. The gap between what comes in and what goes out. And what happens to that gap. This is lifestyle inflation, and it is the silent killer of high earners. Every raise becomes a bigger house. Every bonus becomes a better car. The income doubles, the spending doubles, and the gap, the only thing that actually builds wealth, stays at zero forever. Here's the brutal version. If you cannot build wealth on your current income, there is a very good chance you won't build it on double your income either. Because the problem was never the size of the paycheck. It was the size of the gap. Here's something nobody warns you about, and it messes with people's heads more than any market crash. You think money anxiety is caused by not having money. So, logically, once you have money, the anxiety should be gone, right? Wrong. The anxiety doesn't leave. It just changes costumes. When you're broke, you worry about covering the bills. When you have 100,000, you worry about losing it in a downturn. When you have $1 million, you worry about whether it's invested correctly, whether taxes will eat it, whether a lawsuit or a health event could take it, whether you're the fool holding on while everyone else knows something you don't. The volume of the worry stays roughly the same. Only the lyrics change. And if you don't know this in advance, it's genuinely destabilizing. Because you spent 20 years telling yourself a story. When I get there, I'll finally relax. Then you get there, you're still not relaxed, and now you have a darker question. If money didn't fix this feeling, what will? Here's the answer, and I wish I'd learned it earlier. Peace with money is a skill, not a balance. It's built the same way the money is, through boring habits. A written plan, so decisions aren't made by emotion at 2 a.m. Automation, so your worst impulses can't touch the strategy. And honestly, for a lot of people, a good professional in your corner, not to pick stocks, but to stand between you and your own panic in the moments that matter. Practice the skill while the numbers are small, because the numbers getting bigger will not teach it to you. All right, this is the one I told you about at the start, the one that stings. Nobody prepares you for what money does to relationships. It starts small. You stop complaining about prices and conversations get a little awkward. A friend jokes, "Must be nice," and there's an edge under the joke. Family members start assuming you'll pick up the check. Someone you love asks for a loan, and suddenly every dinner together has an invisible spreadsheet sitting on the table. And you learn something the wealthy figured out generations ago. You stop talking about it. Financial privacy isn't snobbery. It's self-defense. The quiet millionaires I mentioned earlier aren't quiet by accident. They're quiet because they watched what happens to the loud ones. But here's the part that really stings. The hardest relationship money changes is the one with yourself. If you spent 30 years being the hustler, the one who's grinding, the one chasing the dream, who are you when the chase is over? A surprising number of people hit their goal and feel not joy, but a strange grief. The mission that organized their entire life just ended, and no one handed them a new one. So here's what I'd tell my 30-year-old self. Build the wealth, absolutely, but build an identity that doesn't depend on it. Build the marriage, the friendships, the health, the purpose in parallel, not after. Because if you arrive at the number alone, out of shape, and with no idea who you are without the grind, you didn't win. You just finished. Which brings me to the final truth, the one that ties all of this together. At 30, I thought my most valuable asset was my income. Then I thought it was my portfolio. I was wrong both times. It was time. It was always time. Every truth in this video bends around it. The boring strategy only works because of time. The compounding hockey stick only shows up with time. The identity, the relationships, the peace, all built over time, or not at all. And here's the cruel joke. At 30, you're rich in the one asset that matters most and you don't even notice because it doesn't show up in any account. A 30-year-old putting away $500 a month will, in most historical scenarios, run absolute circles around a 45-year-old putting away $2,000. Not because they're smarter, because they gave compounding 15 extra years to breathe. You cannot buy those years back later. Not with income, not with returns, not with hustle. Time is the only asset with no market. You can only spend it, and you're spending it right now, during this video. So, whatever your age, 30, 45, 60, the math is simple and it's brutal. The best day to start was years ago. The second best day is the one you're currently in. So, let's land this plane. 7 brutal truths. The moment will underwhelm you, so stop living for it. The path is boring, so automate it and stop looking for magic. The first 100K is the hardest, so survive it. The physics flips later. Income isn't wealth, the gap is. The anxiety changes costumes, so build the skill of peace, not just the balance. Money changes your relationships and your identity. So build a life in parallel, not after. And time. Time was the whole game from day one. None of this is meant to discourage you. It's the opposite. Because once you drop the fantasy, you can actually win the real game. And the real game is winnable by ordinary people. The data proves it, 9 out of 10 times by people who started with nothing. If this hit home, here's what I want you to do. First, subscribe if you haven't, because next week I'm breaking down the exact mistakes that quietly destroy retirement portfolios after 50, and you do not want to learn those the expensive way. Second, drop a comment and tell me, which of these 7 truths do you wish someone had told you earlier? I read every single one. Thanks for spending your most valuable asset with me today. I'm James. I'll see you in the next one.